Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What was your paranormal experience posted one day ago? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. After my honorary grandfather died, his wife got a picture of him made up real nice to look like a painting. We came home from the funeral and their dog, who never made a sound in all the years she owned it, would not stop barking at his picture. Later on, her doorbell would randomly ring, and the kicker was it only had one tune programmed into it, but it would play all kinds of different tunes after he died. There was a few other weird things that happened, so many so that she started keeping a logbook of all the stuff he was doing around their house. I did some odd jobs for a family I knew in high school. They claimed a history of odd events in the house, but I wrote it off. Had one weekend where I watched the two younger boys while their mom was out of town. They had a few friends over, and throughout the night, things got progressively worse. The separate line in the locked garage called the house, toilets flushing in the basement, 10-year-olds started screaming, "There's someone in mom's bed." It went on for most of the night. Around 6 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Then all 7 of us saw a figure walk through the door itself out the bathroom, maybe 20 feet away. Down the hall towards the bedrooms, it looked like a person wrapped in saran wrap with a bright light on them, but like 50% opacity, if that makes any sense. The door it walked through slammed a second it passed through. Unmistakable. My friend was renting an old house and told me it was haunted. I yelled out, "Ha, there is no way this place is haunted." We immediately heard a bang from the kitchen. I went into the kitchen and noticed a pot that was hanging over the counter was suddenly in the middle of the floor. It fell off its hook and dropped to the floor while missing the 2-foot countertop. Another example of kids saying the wildest things. We have a 3-year-old, and while putting her to bed in her own room for the first time, she randomly rolled over and told me, "These are my friends. They're nice ghosts." She now has her own little bed in our room. She's not our first child to tell us about these friends. I've always been a fever dreamer, insanely vivid, terrifying dreams every time I ran a fever. Well, lucky me, had cancer, leukemia, which turned into a lot of fever dreams, and usually they're easy to tell from other dreams. For 2 weeks, however, when I was 7 or so, I would hallucinate, or so I was told, that someone would constantly say my name just when I would get asleep. But this wasn't dreaming. Someone was saying my name. I've never forgotten those moments for 2 weeks where I could only hear this voice saying my name, and it's never happened again. I was at a family gathering with my mom's side of the family in 2016. My grandpa died 2 years prior of this, and my 3-year-old cousin probably doesn't even remember him. So at the gathering, while we're taking pictures, my cousin pointed at an old bench that only my grandpa really sat in and said, "Mom, it's Pop Pop." Pop Pop was a nickname my family called my grandpa. A bit long, but here we go. This happened back in 2006 at Banyan Club Apartments, West Palm Beach, Florida. One day I rode my bike to my friend's house who lived in the same apartment complex as me. Riding up to his place, I could see someone peeking through the blinds. As I got closer, the blinds closed and I couldn't see the person anymore. I assumed it was my friend Derek. I knocked on the door, waited a few seconds, no answer. I knocked again and called out to him. After a few minutes, I gave up. I thought maybe he just didn't want to hang out. When I turned to grab my bike and leave, his dad pulled into the driveway. I asked him why wouldn't Derek come out to play. He said because Derek wasn't home. He had dropped him off at his grandmother's house. He said no one was home. The hairs on my neck and arms stood on their ends. I told him I saw someone look through the window. I told him someone was there. He went inside, looked around. He didn't find anyone. The place was empty. Derek used to always tell me he would see and hear things at home, but I never believed him. That year, he moved away, and right after he did, we got hit by 2 hurricanes back to back, Francis and Jean. We rode out the storm at a shelter. When we returned, there was a big bubble of plaster hanging down from the ceiling in the living room. It was dripping water onto the floor. A few hours later, the ceiling in the living room collapsed. The storm ripped off all the roof shingles and tiles and left the insulation exposed. It got soaked and caused the roof to come down. When we spoke to the landlord, he said that we could move into another apartment that he had available. It was Derek's old apartment. When we first moved in, everything was normal. I didn't get much sleep because of all the things Derek had told me he had experienced there. I kept expecting to hear noises or see something. Days passed by, then weeks, nothing, until one day I came home from school. I was alone and sat down after a long day to watch TV and unwind in the living room. The door to my mother's room was next to the TV and almost directly in front of me. I noticed it was open. I always got the creeps going into her room. Something about it made me feel uneasy, like I was being watched. I'm flipping through the channels when I hear a noise. Not sure what it was, I lowered the volume and listened. I couldn't hear anything now, so I turned the volume back up. A few seconds later, I hear another noise. I muted the TV. It sounded like dripping water. I got up and went into my mother's room. The sound got louder as I opened the door. I turned on the light and looked to the vanity. The bathroom sink was running slightly. I thought it was strange, but brushed it off. I turned off the faucet, left the room, and shut the door behind me. I sat down and kept watching my show. Suddenly, I hear the water running again. This time it sounded like it was almost on full blast. I went to stand up, and when I planted my feet, I noticed the carpet was soaked. The AC starts making a weird gargling noise that draws my attention. I look up and see black water dripping down the wall from the AC vent. Then I hear running water to my right. I look and see black water coming in from under the door. I try to open the front door, but it's stuck and won't budge. I start to panic. My heart was pounding at this point. I could feel it in my throat. The water starts to seep from the walls, from the windows, from the electrical outlets. It quickly fills the room. I go under. I feel myself about to drown. Then I wake up. I had fallen asleep on the couch and had a nightmare. After I rubbed the sand from my eyes, I noticed the TV is off, and I also noticed the door to my mother's room is wide open. I questioned myself if I actually closed the door, or did I just dream I did? I was still shaken from the nightmare. I called out for my mother and sister, thinking maybe they had come home. My call met with complete silence. I stood up, my vision was blurry. I must have dropped my glasses in my sleep. I reached down to pick them up, I put them on, and when I looked back up, I saw a shadowy slowly make its way across my mom's doorway in her room. Not just a shadow, a silhouette of a figure. A chill ran down my back, shoulders, and arms. I was frozen, I couldn't move. I couldn't feel my legs. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and opened them. It was gone. I still felt incredibly uneasy and even nauseated. My first instinct was to shut the door to her room. I took a couple of steps toward it. I reached for the doorknob. As I did, the door slammed forcefully shut a few inches from my face. I ran out of the apartment in my socks to a neighbor's friend of my mom's, and I stayed there until she came home. My friends and people who have slept at their tiny, mind you, apartment have reported seeing a small boy who sometimes runs through. Many people have also inexplicably fainted in that apartment, including my ex, almost smashed her head against the heater, but I caught her in time. Would you wake your partner up if something like this happened? I was staying at the Timberline Lodge in Oregon, and I woke up in the middle of the night to see a blackfish shadowy figure standing over my husband next to the nightstand. I assumed I was dreaming and rolled over and went to sleep. I woke up the next morning to find a perfect burn outline in the wood on the nightstand around a few objects on the nightstand the figure was standing by. I took a photo of the room when we arrived, so I had proof they weren't there the day before. My husband and I both thought it was kind of weird and checked out his plan that day. He was a bit weirded out that I didn't wake him up if I thought I was seeing someone standing over him. So it was a while I was on family vacation to a hill station to visit religious place, so before we left we heard after this one temple, which was known to be beautiful as a place to be visited, so we went there. On the way, people told us to walk the stairs, so we did. We met a person to argue us to continue every time we decided to stop. But there were no shops, only houses, which soon disappeared as we moved forward. We soon found ourselves in the wild. My mother, being healthy, fat, took the rest while I took my two siblings and continued. We reached in the wild with no animal and a river. We continued till we felt something was not right, and we saw a hotel. Note, we are in wild. My elder brother crossed the river by a fallen tree and went only to return soon after, saying that the main gate had a lock, but the door was broken through. We decided that it will be in our interest to move back when we suddenly noticed that sunlight was diminishing at an alarming speed and the hotel had crows flying all over it. Not time for dusk and sudden appearance of crows when we met none on our way. My cousin's sister, who was eldest, was not even 17 at the time, so we made a room for it, and when we were in my way back, We met with my parents, who decided it was best to leave right away. Though it may not be paranormal, I was 11, and it was still too much to creep me out, and this sure isn't a movie script. I don't know what kind of script it is, because that was a tough translate. When I was little, me and my sister had a trampoline outside of our window, and one night before going to bed, we both looked out our window to see a bright glowing figure next to our trampoline. We then ran, shocked and scared, to our father in the living room. We asked him to look out the window to see what it was, but because the trampoline was farther to the left, he couldn't see it. So no one ended up believing my sister and I, but we both remember seeing it to this day and bring it up every so often.
This is an interesting one. What do you think was in there?
I don't even know what to call this. Paranormal, otherworldly, just outright weird. We were down in Florida Springs of 19. On the beach one day, we saw a coconut, and I decided I would be cool to take it home and crack it open, being that I had never found one before. My friends were pissed because it was kinda wet and smelled like bad ocean smell. Anyway, we get it home, and me and my friend proceed to take off the husk. The thing was rotten as soon as we found out, but we decided we got this far, might as well finish it out and see what was inside. After we isolated the inside coconut part, we took it out and had a look at it. There was a hole in the top of it, probably about the size of a dime. I was holding it and said to my friend, "Look at that. Looks like something got in there." Almost on cue, something emerged from the hole. It didn't look like it was made of solid matter. It looked like some form of hazy liquid in the shape of a creature. It kind of looked like an octopus mixed with a bug, except it was made of alternating bands of brown and blackish water. It looked at me right in the eyes. I'll never forget this thing because I've never seen anything like it in my life. "F that," I exclaimed, and threw the coconut at a nearby wall. It exploded and let out the most foul smell I will ever experience in my life. The kind of smell that feels like acid on the brain, unbearable. I've smelled dead animals, rotted vegetation, even a mummified cat. I tried to explain the smell, but no words could do it justice. It was magnitudes worse than anything I'd ever smelled in my life. We ran inside coughing and gagging. The worst part, it stuck to everything. Even after washing my hands 10 times, putting bleach and rubbing alcohol on it was still there. A group of kids passed by where we broke the thing, and I shit you not, they ran away screaming. Then everything started going wrong that night. Streaks of bad luck, the car breaking down, wind blowing things into us, stuff like that. And that night, when I was trying to go to bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the whole thing. It didn't sit right with me at all. Me and my friend that cracked it open talked and had both seen the thing and had had the ominous feeling. It honestly felt to us like we cracked open some kind of bad spirit in that thing. After some research, we found out coconuts are heavily associated with spirits in most island cultures, and rotten ones can even produce an acid called bongkrek that can kill you if inhaled or ingested. The next day, we were walking on the beach and me and my friend passed by a coconut. We looked at it, then each other. My friend said, "Have a good day, sir," and we kept walking. I'm positive my house or yard is haunted. The reason I say this is not because my house is old, not because somebody likely died in my house, but because I've seen whatever the hell lurks around my yard at night. There's a few reasons why my house would be haunted. Some nights I'll be minding my business and I'll hear a sudden thud or bang behind me. My bed is facing in my room and the wall behind my bed goes outside. I'll ignore it and think it was just the neighbors or something. That was until I started imagining things. I'm not talking about a brief scary thought or image. Whenever I would be walking towards my room, a clear image of a girl without eyes and in a white dress soaked in blood was standing directly on the opposite side of the door. Typical horror movie stuff, I know, but this happened every time I walked to my room for weeks. Luckily, she was never there. These reasons and one other main reason is why I believe my house is haunted. There was a night where I was staying up late with a couple of friends playing Black Ops 3 Zombies online. I noticed my water bottle was empty, so I went upstairs to refill it. I live in the basement. "Hey, I'll BRB. I'm gonna go refill my water bottle." "Alright," my friend responded. As I head up the stairs, I got a bad feeling, like something was looking directly at me. I'm an easily scared person, so I don't play any horror games. Sometimes I'll be in a dark room and be paranoid, but I just turn on the lights and shake the feeling off. But I couldn't shake it off even after forcing myself up the stairs to turn the light on. This feeling I was getting was the most scared I felt in a long time. My gut was telling me to bolt back downstairs and don't come back up, but I ignored it because I hate walking up in the morning and not having water. As I was refilling my water bottle, the feeling kept getting worse and worse. I made rapid glances around me to make sure nothing was creeping up on me. After what seemed like forever, my bottle was filled and a sense of relief came over me. I went around upstairs to make sure all the doors were locked and to close the blinds just for good measure. Front door, living room blinds, garage door, kitchen blinds, and windows. As I came up to the sliding back door, the feeling came back. I forced myself to walk to the door and lock it, which was an obvious mistake. There, standing on the back porch, barely visible, was a black figure. It looked to be around my height, 5'8", but much skinnier. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, and I was just tired. Keep in mind, this was at 2 a.m. To make sure I still wasn't being paranoid, I moved my arm out from my body to see if it would copy my movements like a reflection. It didn't. Not trying to become a character in a horror movie explores the unknown, I hauled ass back downstairs and into my room. I told my friends about it, and they only had one response. That's effed. It's a little more than effed. Try terrifying.